So let's start our expert exam session plan. So subject is advanced audit and assurance. So let's start with this. So if I take advanced audit and assurance paper, first of all, it's a paper version is international. Paper version is international. So when you book for exams, always make sure that you are applying for correct paper. And students, if I take this paper, right, it consists section A and it consists section B. So section A, if I take, it's a case study question. For 50 marks. So here again section B, case study questions, 25 marks, 2 questions, total again 50 marks. And if I take this section A along with technical knowledge, right, examiner want to check technical knowledge. Apart from the skills, technical knowledge is also tested, right? So technical knowledge means, in the sense, I can say ISA and IAS and IFRS. So this is reporting, this is auditing. So these two technical standards or technical knowledge is tested in your paper. Therefore, don't think that you are doing a paper where only theory areas tested. It is not like that. So most of the time when I compare this audit and assurance paper with advanced audit and assurance paper, audit and assurance paper, most of the time it's like within the scope, right? But advanced audit and assurance paper is always out of the box, out of the scope. It is not specified format. So the cases include technical knowledge plus the skills. So if I take the skill set, there are two main skill set is tested, right? Apart from that ACCA skill set, right? Two main skill set is tested, especially in section A and also section B, right? Those two skill set I can say. One is professional skepticism. Two is professional judgment. So professional skepticism and professional judgment are the two main skills, in your paper examiner want to test. Apart from that, examiner want to test technical knowledge of students in terms of ISA auditing standards, in terms of IAS and IFRS reporting standards. So most of the time, even though if you are not really good in ISA, right, which means the audit knowledge, right, audit perspective, if you are really not good in audit concepts, there is a room that you can pass this paper. Reason, if I take the composition, right, I can say like 40% of auditing area and 60% of the reporting area. Why I'm telling like that? Sometimes if you take advanced audit and assurance paper, sometimes you might feel that you are doing SBR paper. Because strategic business reporting and advanced audit and assurance, there is a correlationship. Because strategic business reporting is also, they give some cases based on the standard knowledge, you're going to interpret that case. In the same way, when it comes to AAA paper, it is related to financial statement. So our subject matter is financial statement. But again, if you are really good in IAS and IFRS, to some extent you can write your answers. Therefore, when you are preparing for your exams, mainly apart from audit knowledge, it is very important, that is we call reporting knowledge, because reporting knowledge take more percentage of questions than just a technical knowledge from the audit. Therefore, I'm telling like, okay, AAA paper, when you are preparing, it's your duty to prepare standard background, accounting standards. So best combination to do AAA paper is soon after a strategic business report, because that gives a clear confidence to you, because once you identify the problem, then only you can able to approach. Therefore, standards matter. And those who are working in audit firms, right, automatically professional judgment and professional skepticism mindset will be created to you. Therefore, those two skill sets are inherently it's there when if you are working in an audit firm. But if you are a full-time student where you don't have like audit firm exposure, and or if you are working in mercantile or corporate sector, sometimes you are lacking the skepticism and the judgment. So the main concern that AAA students are facing now is they are not that really good in reporting standard, or they are not that good in terms of skills. Those who are really good in reporting standards also have some shortfalls in terms of skills. Therefore, students, if these three combine together, you can really perform well in this paper. Because most of the times when I see your marks or the results, maybe 50, 51, 55, maximum 55, 56. So your marks is like you have got through this paper, but it's marginal differences are there. Like 50 to 55 region only most of the students are scoring. Reason, you have technical knowledge, but you don't have skills. So here we are trying to apply that skills and we are trying to meet examiner's expectation. That is we call judgmental gap. Examiner is put a case study to test certain areas, and whether students are effectively pick that areas and explain the level expected by the examiner. That is the most challenging task. The reason here is, if you are not really good in skill set, if you are not really good in skill set, what is skill set? Skepticism or judgment, there is an expectation gap. You write some answer, examiner is expecting some answer, there is a significant gap between your answer and examiner's answer. What is the reason? Reason is not technical knowledge, because most of the students who do AAA, you are really good in auditing standards and also you are really good in reporting standards. If you have these two technical knowledge portion, if you are really good in these two technical portion, what you need to develop is skill set, right? And now the question is, how are we going to develop this skill set? My advice, practice more questions. My advice, practice more questions. Think out of the box. So that is the only way to go through these papers. Therefore, don't think that audit paper, they are just testing the technical portion. Like most of the students, they are preparing that for that 40%. Don't prepare the 40%, because if you study only what audit and how it works and auditing standards, what is given in the Kaplan study text, if you by heart everything, it does not make you pass. It does not make you pass. Keep that in your mind. Right? What make you pass? Auditing, reporting, plus skills. All three together combine, it make you to pass. Therefore, when you are preparing for exams, you should focus in these three dimensions. So these are the basic areas that you need to develop from your side. So don't just prepare for exams. Try to prepare in a way that your skill set is improved. Right? See, I'll test your skill set, how you are thinking and how you need to think, right? So that skill sets, right? For example, okay, what I discussed so far, understandable? Is this the paper structure? And all these questions are tested in these three dimensions. One is skills dimension, auditing standards, and the reporting standard. These three pillars are there in all of your questions. Is that clear? Therefore, when you are doing a question, you should allocate time for these three. Fine. So that is very important. Is that fine? Copy this quickly. The revision material I'll share after today's class, and we'll start to discuss those questions from next class, right? Now copy this paper structure and try to develop these skill sets first. Okay, copy this. Right. Now students, it's like this. Concentrate. If you take your paper, there are few examinable questions that is frequently tested. That is frequently tested. Every year, you will find these questions. The problem is, for these questions, there is a way to write answer. You should know that format when you are writing answer, because most of the students, what they ask from my side when they are attending lectures, so the questions are like almost same. Questions are predetermined every year. Trying the questions, if you look at, yes, it is like a predetermined question. But the problem is how we going to structure our answer, how you going to write our answer, because we don't know what to write and we don't know what extent to write. Right? Sometimes when we are trying to write more, we don't have enough time to manage. Right? So if you do an past paper analysis, students, there are few set of questions that repeatedly tested in your paper. That is repeatedly tested in your paper. That's how you can structure your exam paper. So if you prepared for these standardized questions, predetermined questions, and if you know what to write and if you know how to write, that save majority of your time. That save majority of your time. Is that clear? Now let's start with the first question. Right. So if I take first question, that is risk of material misstatement or else some past papers they use the word audit risk. Fine. So definitely you will get risk of material misstatement or audit risk type of question. Today I will discuss this question and I'll teach you how to approach this question in your exam. Right? The second one is business risk. This is also question that is frequently tested. There was a period where like all these areas are tested, like one paper it is audit risk, one paper it is business risk. Now it is not like that. Now both audit risk and business risk tested together. right? Third one, matters to be considered and audit evidence obtained. Or matters to be considered and audit procedures performed. This is also a repeated question. They might give a scenario. That scenario include a subject matter related issue. Right? Can be a confirmed misstatement, can be a possible misstatement. How are you going to tackle that? That is what matters to be considered question, right? You might study audit evidence and ISA 500, sufficient and appropriate evidence. How we gather that evidence? By performing test of controls, by performing substantive procedures. So when you are performing test of control and substantive procedures, you are gathering audit evidence. Therefore, at that time, what you should focus, that is matters to be considered. That is a way to write answer. And then audit evidence. Audit evidence is something that we gathered after performing procedure. At the same time, matters to be considered audit procedures. Audit procedures, the verb include test of control procedures and substantive procedures. So audit procedures is not substantive procedure. The verb is audit procedure. It includes test of controls and substantive procedures. So there is a way to write these answers. This is also commonly tested questions in the past paper. That is a question format, right? And fourth one is about ethics. That include ethical threats. Sometimes they use the verb ethical threats, right? Sometimes they use the verb ethical risk, right? And quality control issues, quality control issues, comma, sometimes they use the word professional issues. Sometimes they use the word professional issues. This is also frequently tested questions. So if you look at the past papers, if you look at the examinable questions right in your 5-6 years past papers, yes, it include this as well. Then procedures. If you look at procedures, right? So some past papers, they use the word audit procedures. Some past papers, they use the word substantive procedures. You should know the difference between these things. Some past papers, they use the word analytical procedures. Analytical procedures you might study it comes under ISA 520, right? So all these procedures, they might ask over a component of financial statement. What is mean by component of financial statement? It can be sales, it can be purchase, it can be payroll, it can be work in progress, a component of financial statement. Or it can be a misstatement, misstatement means it can be a judgmental misstatement, it can be a factual misstatement. ISA 450 you might study it, right? There are 3 types of misstatement. One is judgmental misstatement, 2 is factual misstatement, 3 is projected misstatement. Any misstatement can be given. Or else, most common, non-compliance with standard. They might give some issues, that is non-compliance with standards. Non-compliance with standards. One of these can be given. Most of the time it is non-compliance with the standard. For that particular issue, what procedures you're going to perform, right? So the verb may be audit procedure, the verb may be a substantive procedure, or the verb may be substantive analytical procedure. Right, this procedure question is very much important. I'll tell you, 20 to 30 marks of your paper goes to this. Right, most of the time it is standard based, so you should know accounting standard to tackle procedure questions as well. Lamai, I'll tell you one more thing. See here, if you are doing risk of material misstatement, yes, audit knowledge is required, standard knowledge is required. Matters to be considered, standard knowledge is mandatory. Procedures, standard knowledge is mandatory, because most of the AAA procedure questions are related to the standard related issues. The next question is number 6. This sixth question is impact to audit report. Impact to audit report, that is reporting, or else critical evaluation of audit report. critical evaluation of audit report. So that is also a common verb. That is also a common verb. And number 7, ISAs. Any standard can be tested. Any standard can be tested. There are a lot of standards you might study. Any standard can be tested. Right. Number 8 is the major question, that is other assignments. Other assignments you might study. Some assignments are agreed upon procedures, some assignments are review engagement. Right. So due diligence, prospective financial information, performance information, social environmental audit, right? Interim financial reporting, fraud investigation, all these are other assignments. When it comes to other assignments, the examiner is focusing questions based on planning and accepting. Planning and accepting. And then procedures, then report. These are the 3 dimensions of other assignments. These are 3 dimensions of other assignments, right? So normally, if you look at your AAA paper, majority of the marks, I can say 70 to 80% of your paper falls within this category. Falls within this category. So when we are preparing for these type of question verbs, there is a methodology to write answer, right? You can't follow your own pattern, because in examiner's report, examiner told for each and every question what examiner is expecting from the students. Therefore, when you are doing a past paper question, relevant past papers examiner's report you should download, and you should read that examiner's report. Then you can quantify the answer, to what level I should write answer, what is exactly expected by the examiner, what is exactly expected by the examiner, right? So your framework, the last moment, next 1 month, it should be focused on this dimension. It should be focused on this dimension. Is that clear, students? Is that clear? I'm not teaching AAA. I am now converting you from theory to paper, how to prepare for your exam. Now it's the time to learn from questions. It's a reverse technique, right? So take the list of questions. These questions are repeatedly tested and it is confirmed. So now come back to theory. Now come back to theory. So that reversal technique helps you to quantify your answer, what to write, when and how to plan that answer. That is easy to develop your skills and develop your technical knowledge, right? Is that clear, students? What I said understood? Is that clear? Copy this. Copy this. Copy this. Copy it. Copy these questions. Today, I'll take ethics. Today, I'll take ethics. Okay. Now, students, if I take ethics, you should understand two question verbs first. One is ethical threats, two is ethical risk. Or I can say ethical issue. If the verb is ethical issue, the meaning is different. If the verb is ethical threat, the meaning is different. Okay. Because sometimes all the students, they take all the verbs as ethical threats. It is not like that. See, if I take ethics, what is ethics? Beyond legality, what is right and what is wrong. That is called ethics. Simply, if you ask what is ethics, some people might argue it is what is right and what is wrong. That is wrong. Because within legality, right is right. It is already defined. When you are riding a bike, valid driving license is mandated. There you can't argue it is wrong. No. Because right is also defined, wrong is also defined. So within legality, right is defined, wrong is defined. No one need to apply their judgments what is right and what is wrong. But when you move beyond legality, normally if you are a professional, at certain point you are moving beyond legality. If you are an accountant, standard, beyond standard you will move at one point, because standard gives that independent here. So when a person is moving beyond legality, right, at that point he should think what is right and what is wrong. What is right? Public interest is right. What is wrong? Self interest is wrong. This decision only we call ethics. Simply this decision only we call ethics. So ethical decisions are personal decision. It is influenced by different factors. When that individual moves beyond legality, he should take what is right and what is wrong. Right is public interest, wrong is self-interest. Okay. Now concentrate. What is mean by ethical threats? Let's say an individual, how he going to test whether he is ethical or not? He should apply code of ethics. He should apply code of ethics. You might study integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, professional behavior, right? Confidentiality. All these things comes under what? Code of ethics. So code of ethics is a guideline to test whether an individual is an ethical person or not. Whether an individual is an ethical person or not. So you can apply this code of ethics, to you, and you can decide whether you are an ethical person. Whether you are an ethical person or not. When you are an ethical person, still you are not safe. When you are an ethical person, still you are not safe. Why? Because you can be an ethical person, but the person you are dealing with, you are a finance manager, you are dealing with CEO. You are a finance manager, but you are dealing with chairman. If these people are not ethical, then there is a problem. When someone else is not ethical, you are not safe. That is we call threats. When someone else is not ethical, then we are at risk. That is we call threats. So what is threat? The people or the person or the professionals like us, because if we are not professionals, no problem. Let's say employees, operational level people, tactical level people. Normally, these people are false within legality. What they should do, what they should not do, everything is defined clearly. But when you move beyond that point, strategic level, then only problem comes. Then only problem comes. Then only you should behave what is right and what is wrong. What is right and what is wrong. When someone else who falls within that professional category, and if that person is not ethical, then there is a problem. That is we call threat. Try to understand this term. Threat means what? Yes, we are ethical. someone else is not ethical. That someone else is a professional like us. Someone else is a professional like us. We should understand. Now, what is mean by ethical risk? That is also matter. What is mean by ethical risk? Ethical risk. Ethical risk means it's like this. See, earlier under ethical threat, I am ethical person. I am following rules and regulations. I am an ethical person. But the crowd I deal with, not ethical. So it's a threat to me. So that threat can be in the form of self-interest. That threat can be in the form of self-review. That threat can be in the form of intimidation. That threat can be in the form of familiarity, anything. But ethical risk means there is a possibility the person I am not ethical, the people who I am dealing with also not ethical. I am also not ethical, the people who are dealing with people also not ethical. So when they are not ethical, it is threats. When I am not ethical, it is non-compliance. It is non-compliance. Non-compliance with what? Ethical risk includes non-compliance and threats. Threats come from outside. Non-compliance means two things you should focus. Non-compliance with legality, non-compliance with code of ethics. Non-compliance with what? Legality. Non-compliance with what? Code of ethics. What is meant by non-compliance with legality? When someone is not following rules, right is also defined, wrong is also defined. Right is also defined, wrong is also defined. But we are not following rules. I am a professional, I am not following rules. Following rules means professional behavior. Under code of ethics we studied, there is a concept called professional behavior. What is professional behavior? The professional need to follow rules and regulation. If I am not following rules, something is said by the rule, it is right. I am not doing that. If I go beyond legality, will I protect public interest? No, because it's clearly defined. Rule I am not following. How people can expect me when I move beyond legality, I will take public interest decision. Therefore, if the verb is ethical risk or if the verb is ethical issue, non-compliance with code of ethics, non-compliance with legality. What is the legality that we used in audit? ISA. So when an auditor is not following ISA, when an auditor is not following code of ethics, auditor is also not ethical. The people who are dealing with auditor is also not ethical. This situation we call ethical risk. Therefore, if you look at the case study, if the verb is ethical threat, that case include only third party is not ethical. Auditor is ethical. That's why the verb is threat. So when the verb is threat, the people who are dealing with auditor may not be ethical, but auditor following code of ethics. If the verb is ethical, risk, or if the verb is ethical issues, then auditor also problem, third party is also problem. That case study include some non-compliance with standards, some threats also. Now you all understood the verbs. Students, now you understood the verbs. What is mean by ethical threat and what is mean by ethical issues or ethical risk. Is that clear? The verb understood. Ethical threats and ethical issues. Is the verb clear? Is that clear? Now concentrate. I'll give you a simple example to make yourself comfortable with these terms. Ethical threats means third party is not ethical. Third party is not complying with code of ethics. So it can be in the form of self-interest. It can be in the form of self-review. It can be in the form of intimidation. It can be in the form of familiarity. It can be in the form of advocacy. So these are ethical threats. But if I look at ethical risk or ethical issues, here two things. One is threats that already we discussed. Two is non-compliance. Two is non-compliance. Most of the time, this non-compliance include ISA or Code of Ethics. In your past paper, most of the case studies are ISA based. Most of the case studies are ISA based. Please copy this to understand the verbs. To understand the verbs. Then I'll give one or two examples. Then we can learn how to approach these verbs. After that, you can get a clear understanding about these things, the verbs. Then we can approach case study questions. Copy this. Copy this. Right. Now, students, I'll explain this way of writing answer with two examples. Right? Number one, example. Let's say in your scenario, case study, they are telling, okay, auditor provide external audit service and taxation service. Finance director request auditor to agree audit fee based on Audit fee based on PBT, profit before tax. Okay. The verb is ethical threats. The verb is ethical threat. Okay. I'll give 5 minutes. Type your answer. If you get a verb of ethical threat, how are you going to approach? How are you going to write the answer? I'll give 5 minutes. Type your answer. Type your answers. What is your answers? See here, if you look at this case study, in this case study, auditor is doing audit service and taxation service. Now you might have a doubt. Taxation service means they didn't mention what type of taxation service. For example, if you look at taxation service, it is not always prohibited. For listed company, submitting tax return do not create any threat. But tax planning create a problem. Tax advisory create a problem. Those are prohibited. But we don't know what service he do, right? Therefore, we can argue in that perspective. Now, if you look at finance director is one character here. Auditor is one character here. So, who is requesting finance director? That fellow is not ethical. Therefore, it is a threat. Therefore, it is a threat. And he is agreeing audit fee based on PBT. This is we call contingency fee arrangement. This is we call contingency fee arrangement. Contingency fee arrangement is creating self-interest threat. Self-interest threat, and actually the safeguard is prohibited. It is prohibited. So when you are writing answer, you should mention what is the problem. You should explain what type of threat it is, and you should explain what is International Ethical Standard Board gave guidelines over this issue. This is the answer structure. So you should explain it is a contingency fee. You should explain, yes, it is creating self-interest threat, and you should explain what is the safeguard. This fee arrangement is prohibited. So these three matters you should explain within your ethical threat. What I mentioned, understood? The verb ethical threat and how to write answer for ethical threat. Is that clear? Students, is that clear? Now put a sketch here. Right. These are the points you should include. Understood? Copy this. Now students, concentrate. Now let's move to another example. In this example, we can learn the verb ethical risk. Here see, auditor perform audit for X PLC 3 years. So they know about this company. Partner didn't update engagement letter this year. Engagement letter this year. Since no major changes in the current year audit. No major changes in the current year audit. This is the statement, and the verb is ethical risk. The verb is ethical risk. The verb is ethical risk. Now type your answer. I type your answer. The verb is ethical risk now. Now verb is ethical risk. Write down the answer. If you look at this particular case, see here, the problem start from auditor's side, not from the third party. ISA 210 engagement letter, that particular standard, acceptance consideration standard, it's clearly mentioned every year Every year, auditor should publish engagement letter. Auditor should update engagement. Suppose if auditor fails to update engagement letter, it is non-compliance with ISA 210. It is non-compliance with ISA 210. So when auditor is not following standard, it is non-compliance with rules and regulations. Therefore, it is an ethical issue. So, ethical issue includes a non-compliance with the standard. Ethical issues include the threat as well. So, when you are writing answer, you should think standard perspective, and you should think code of ethics perspective, and you should think threat perspective, and then you should write the answer. Here, if you look at this case, it is about standard perspective. Right? Okay. So today we discussed ethics, and we discussed the verbs of ethics, and we discussed how to approach ethics question. If it is an ethical risk, what is the verb? If it is ethical threats, what is the verb, and how to write answers. Right? I will upload a material in the group. In that material, I include questions and the answers. Next class, we will discuss. Today, I'll stop early. Next class, we will discuss audit risk, and we discuss past paper questions. Before I start audit risk past paper question, I'll do some ethics past paper questions. Then we can move to audit risk past paper questions. Today, what we discussed, understood? Right. So today I'll stop little early because I want to prepare materials, and I'll share those materials, and I will discuss all those things next class. So next class I'm covering audit risk, and I'm covering matters to be considered plus ethical questions. Right. With that point, I'll stop for the day. We'll meet next week. Thank you very much.